office from 6 to like 6:30. And then I'm gonna come here for 7. Oh, it starts at 7. Well, George.
The only thing we had was 5 weeks before.
Why? With one of the city council at their board meetings, I said, put us right up front so we got to get down here and get you. I was planning for 7:30. Check the time. That's all right. So if I finish there by 6:30 at the latest, yeah, so the goal is to give myself 45 minutes from South Providence. That's what ask Jim to talk very low. I will. There you go. If you need me to feed you some questions, I'm going to September 3rd. September 9th. All right. 11. Cool. Yes, I will try to. I'll get it right. Well, I will try to respect the rules and not. For the town pocket. So I'd like to see them running their lights and stuff. So she gets up on her knees and they get mad. Who are those people? And I'm like, well, yeah, I mean, my goal here is to try to. That's right. See if I can get some money. My mom's house. It's interesting.
Jeremy, more handouts? No. Wow. I printed it at the end, but that's
She's been here since 96. She's been here
They are what they are.
Sleeves.
Good, how are you? Yeah, I took my sides off.
It's like a dream job to be like an announcer or how we live in this kind of thing.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Good evening. Could I have everyone's attention? Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for coming. Wow, what a great turnout. My name is Mike DeLuca. I'm the planning director for the town of Narragansett. I'm the staff liaison to the consultant who is providing the community choice electricity program that we are introducing tonight. I don't have a whole lot to say. I do want to let you all know that this isn't something that is a flash in the pan. The town council, a couple years ago, actually brought this idea forward. And they looked into it. They realized, members of the town council realized there were several communities in the state of Rhode Island who were looking into aggregation in order to save money for their residents, taxpayers. So our town council saw that, they brought that to the staff, and put me in charge of working with our consultant, who I will introduce shortly. And then we worked through it fairly slowly. We're very deliberative. One of the things I want to point out is this didn't just happen. There were several introductory sort of presentations. Each time the consultant came to us, they had a little bit more information for us. So we were learning as we were going. So that happened about 2 years ago. Back in July of this last summer, the town council approved the program, and that allowed the consultant, Good Energy LP, to go to the Public Utilities Commission in order to get us a license. So that is what has happened. That brings you up to speed to July. Since then, we have put a plan together, an actual plan for introduction and institution of this community choice aggregation program. And we have gotten to the point today where we are just about ready to implement. So I don't want to take any more of your time. I want to introduce Jamie Rhodes. Jamie is the sales manager and the attorney for Good Energy LP. They are our consultant, and they have hired Next Era Energy Services to provide this supply. So with no further ado, I'll turn it over to Jamie.
Hello? Hello? All right. Thank you all very much. Sorry for the folks in the back. Thank you all very much for the opportunity to have this conversation with you all tonight. I'm going to take just maybe 5 to 10 minutes here, just kind of walk through how we got here and walk through some of the decisions that were made along the way as an effort both to just provide understanding of the process as well as the decisions that were made. And then after I go through that, it's open question time. I think we'll either come around with a microphone because we are streaming this, or if that doesn't work, when you tell a question, I'm just going to repeat it so that the folks that are seeing on the live stream hear the question, and then I'll seek to respond to everything that you have. And my intention here tonight is to not leave until everybody feels satisfied we've had their questions answered. I will not guarantee that you like the answers, but I can say that I'll give the answers accurately to the best of my ability of every inquiry that you might have about the program and how it's operating. I really seek to be as transparent as possible. The intention of this program is to provide transparency and knowledge about our electricity system and how it operates and how we secure supply of electricity. That's what I hope to be able to deliver tonight. So once again, my name is Jamie Rhodes. I am the sales manager and I'm an attorney for Good Energy. We are a consultant that works with, we currently work with 9 municipalities in Rhode Island, 7 of which are launching their aggregation programs in May. The other 2 communities, Bristol and Middletown, are in the process of developing their plans. And the program is launching, along with Narragansett, is Newport and Portsmouth, Barrington, South Kingstown, Central Falls, and Providence are all launching this program together. So the purposes of the program, and these are the purposes as when I first talked with Mike and when I first talked with folks on the council, I laid out that there's a lot of potential goals of a program, of an aggregation program. There's a lot of options of how you, for the values you want to put in place with the electricity you supply, and there's a lot of different things in an aggregation program to accomplish. When they decided to move forward with the plan, I was given pretty much the goal of 2 specific goals. and a third goal that we're going to work to meet. But the two specific goals were, can we lower electricity prices for individual residents, businesses, and industrial customers? And two, can we increase the amount of renewables that we use in our electricity system in order to move us off of fossil fuel generated electricity and more towards a low carbon, zero carbon electricity supply? Those are the two primary goals that we were given. The additional one that we want to work towards is more stability in our electricity rates. As you all probably are currently aware, if you're on Rhode Island Energy's electricity supply, it changes twice a year. It changes on April 1 and it changes on October 1st. These are you have these 2 6-month periods. Our goal of this program is actually to move to more stable rates over about hopefully year-long rates. That's not what we have at the beginning, primarily because it was not going to be cost effective to do that. There was too much risk involved. And so we wanted to make sure we're delivering good value for residents rather than prioritizing a stable rate when we knew that it might not pan out to provide savings over a 1-year contract, while we knew we could deliver on a 6-month one. So that was the purposes of the program, and what we were trying to deliver was lower electricity costs with more renewables. And so, as I imagine, since you are all here, it's because you received letters about it. Yes, I'm totally responsible for all those letters landing in your mailbox and the postcards beforehand. That was our work. We developed those. And what the program is delivering right now is that the electricity is, we're increasing the amount of renewables in the default electricity supply by 5%. So that means that 28% of the electricity in that supply will be coming from renewable sources versus the state mandate of 23%. And we're doing that at a 12% discount to what Rhode Island Energy offers. And that's of the default standard product that is at 9.361 cents per kilowatt hour. Rhode Island Energy, if you see the letters that you're there, and I'm making this announcement now, it's up on the website now. Initially, Rhode Island Energy proposed rates at 9.761 cents per kilowatt hour. That was in mid-January. We had to finalize these to get to the printers, and out the mail and all of that. Subsequently, over 2 additional filings since then, they have raised that rate to 10.675 cents. These numbers are available on the Division or the Public Utilities Commission website, and they're likely to be approved on March 20. They're likely to be approved by the PUC on March 27th. So once again, the rate, if you stay with Rhode Island Energy, will be 10.675 cents per kilowatt hour. If you stay in the program, the default will be 9.361 cents per kilowatt hour. And once again, that's about a 12% savings over this period. And so for that reason, I just want to say, I feel like we did a good job. The purposes of the program, which are lower rates, increase renewables, and that's what the program is offering for residents, businesses in Narragansett. So one other piece just to note on the letter is that the opt-out period, the deadline to opt out of the program, and just to be clear, this is to opt out of the program before it ever starts, so that you'll never be in it, no participation whatsoever. We're extending it from April 3rd to April 8th. The mail did not deliver all on time, and to account for that, we're extending the deadline on the end here so that folks have more time to opt out. And after April 8th, we can still, that's for mail-in opt-out, like we got on the card that was sent. Online, you can opt out up until April 11th. We'll be able to do that. If anybody chooses to opt out of the program after that, it will just go into effect the following month. So this program is, you can enter it and you can leave it at no charge. There's no cost, there's no change fee, there's no termination clause of any sort. If you'd like to leave the program at any time before it starts, after it starts, a year down the line, 4 years down the line, if the program is still running then, you may opt out at any time, once again, at no cost. And anytime you opt out, it goes into effect the following month when your meter is read by Rhode Island Energy. So I just want to take a step back. So that's what I just wanted to make sure we start with, is what was the goals and what is being delivered in the program. And then I want to just walk us through briefly, and I know Mike started this, I'll go in a little bit more detail, the process by which the program was created. So the first step of doing this is, actually I'll take one step back, the General Assembly passed a law in 2017 to allow these programs to be created. Before that time, you could create an aggregation program, but it would be opt-in. We would have to go out and ask everybody if they wanted to join the program before you could launch it. Those have been tried. Those have been available for about 30 years, and they've been attempted. What happens is that they don't deliver savings. And the reason why they don't deliver savings is that at some point you're going to have to go out to a supplier and say, will you supply electricity to this program? The first question they're going to ask is, well, how much electricity do you need? How many people are participating? And if any answer that is vague, uncertain, or contingent upon something else is them adding price to it, risk factor, the unknown, that maybe they're not buying enough, maybe they bought too little. So the less clarity you give them about how much electricity they need to buy, the higher the rates are. And in that situation, we would never be able to get a rate that's lower than Rhode Island Energy if we did an opt-in program. And that's why the General Assembly offered an opt-out program. They'd seen, there's experience in other states that these programs deliver savings to residents, and so the General Assembly authorized it. Then in June of I got the Town Council meeting on June 21st, 2021, the Council authorized a resolution to say, put a plan together. Find a consultant that you can work with, put a plan together, and bring it back to us. At that time, I was at that council meeting. I answered a fair amount of questions to the council. I was like, what is an aggregation program? How does it operate? What are we committing ourselves to? And at that point, it was committing to developing a plan, just to see if this program would work. Following that, the municipality selected Good Energy that was June, 6 months later, December of 2021. The municipality selected us, Good Energy, to provide those services to the program to develop and implement the program. After that, I worked with the town staff and put together a first draft of a plan. This is what other communities are using. This is how the plan works. These are the individual provisions of it. And I presented, a draft plan was worked on with the staff and presented to the town council in April of 2022. We took questions, took comments, made changes based off of the council's questions. And then we put out that draft plan for a public hearing. At the town council meeting on May 16th of 2022, they held a public hearing on it where we reviewed I reviewed the plan and took questions from the audience. And at that time, I answered every question that came up. I sought to answer in fullness, fairness to what the program is offering. We had published multiple notices in the Narragansett Times about the public hearing, seeking to put information out there that this was happening. We put information up on the town website to let folks know, including a copy of that plan. And then, municipality, we reviewed comments made at the public hearing. They've been actually logged in the aggregation plan itself. These are the questions that came. These are the responses that were given. And following that, the town council voted in June 6th to the final version of the plan they approved at that time. That's June 2022, and also authorized us to file this with the Public Utilities Commission. That's a state regulatory agency that oversees electricity, delivery services, and supply services, and they have a role in vetting each one of the aggregation plans to make sure that they're going to deliver safe and reliable service to the residents that it's seeking to serve. The Public Utilities Commission conducted an investigation into the plan. In other words, I answered a lot of questions that they had, that the Division of Public Utilities and Carriers had, and any questions that the utility had about it. Following that, as well as their own they also held a public hearing on the plan at the Public Utilities Commission. And they approved the plan. I don't have that date right in front of me. I believe they approved the plan in September of last year. Yeah, it was the beginning of September of last year. Maybe of August. September, okay. Sorry, just the memory. There's a lot of dates. I apologize if I'm off by a month. I believe it was September of last year. At that time, we had already done a competitive bidding process for an electricity supplier for the other 6 approved communities. That bidding process began in November of 2021. It was before Narragansett had approved their program. And it was initially intended for the 6 approved programs at that time. I'm going to walk through that bidding process so you know the decision that the council ended up making. In November, prior to November of 2021, we had gone out to licensed suppliers that are allowed to conduct business in Rhode Island, plus ones that have experience serving aggregation programs, generally in Massachusetts, since there's a fair number, there's about 100 programs in Massachusetts currently. And we solicited them to say, are you interested in serving more programs in Rhode Island? This is what their bid is going to come up. We want to have interest from suppliers. Let's have some initial conversations of what you need to know. In November of 2021, we issued an RFP for supplier services, electricity supply services. And at that point, we received the first round of bids from 3 suppliers. One supplier was initially, we didn't disqualify one, but one of the responses was just not going to work. The supplier had a pretty poor history of customer service. We had difficulty working with them in other communities, and they had tried to pass costs of the program off to the municipalities, and we did not think that that's the correct supplier for us to work with in this program. At that point, we had 2 other suppliers that offered their services to the program, and they had very different perspectives of how to do so. One of the suppliers wanted to set a rate then for up to 3 years and not have it change. One rate, and we go with it for a period of time. This is how a lot of the programs in Massachusetts operate. We totally understand that, and for the life of those programs they've proven to be very beneficial. However, in 2021, actually beginning in 2022, we started seeing the volatility in the electricity market, and the risk associated with setting a rate now for multiple years was very obvious. And so while we pushed them to bring in a good rate on that bid, there was skepticism about that approach and whether it's going to provide value to the program over time. The other supplier, NextEra Energy Services, offered a different approach and said, we don't know what the market's going to look like in a year. There's too many variables happening right now. What we want to do is model how we do this off of how Rhode Island Energy does its procurement. That's the primary competition. Let's see if we can look at the method they use and find ways to improve it. The idea being, if we're going to compete with them, we better do it better than they do. And just to be mildly flippant about it, Rhode Island Energy has no interest, no incentive to provide low-cost electricity to anybody. They don't make money on the electricity they provide. They also are not allowed to lose money on the electricity they provide. So if they underbid or overbid, they collect it from us later. They've got no risk. In this program, the risk is put on the suppliers to do this. And their intention is that they know they need to be lower than Rhode Island Energy in order for people to be happy with the program. Because if you're not saving money, why would you be in the program anyway? And I agree. So what NextEra proposed, and I can't go into some of their procurement details because that's their trade secrets, that's their business practices. I am not at liberty to expose how they operate, but what I can describe is the process. And on the base level is that the process by Rhode Island Energy is that they buy multiple times over the year to supply for a 6-month period. It takes them about 18 months, and they do it in pieces, in tranches, and levels. And they'll buy 20% of the load now, 15% of the load in 3 months. But those procurement dates are set in not in regulation, they're set in a proposal by Rhode Island Energy that's approved by the PUC of when they go to bid for electricity supply. And if anybody's in the procurement business, if you know when a buyer has to buy, well, you start to see prices go up because everybody knows they're buying that day and they don't have a choice. If it goes up really high, they still buy that day because they've been ordered to do so by the PUC. And once again, they don't care because however high it is, those costs get passed on to all the consumers. So what we said is that, well, we don't have to announce our dates. We're not a regulated utility. We're trying to compete on the open market. So we can go to bid and procure electricity when the market's low. And we can wait until the market's low. And we don't have to bid at a time when everybody knows about it. So you look at when the market's there. And so that means that every time there's a procurement between us and the utility, we're able to not buy at the peak, we're able to buy at the troughs that are around it. And our plan is still to buy electricity in pieces. So buy a little bit here, 3 months from now, buy a little bit then. So we're not just dependent on the individual market at any individual moment. And those benefits of that approach is what led to the rates that we have here that are lower than Rhode Island Energy. And why I have confidence it'll be lower in the future is that we have more time. We had to do this in 3 months when Rhode Island Energy did it in 18. So for the next 6 months from now, when the next rate comes out, we'll have had 9 months to do it while they've had 18. And then so the more runway we have, the more competitive we can be at doing this better than what Rhode Island Energy does. Because once again, we have the flexibility to do so. So with NextEra laying out that plan, we said, yeah, those are the services that we want. And so while the other supplier did provide, we brought them to the verge of having an executable contract with us to set a rate for 3 years, we ended up not taking it and said we were going to instead explore finalizing an agreement with NextEra because their approach is where the value is. So that led to September of last year, right when the program got approved, is when I went to pretty much every town council, city council of the programming within the programs, and we asked the councils to authorize executing a contract with NextEra, pending 2 key factors. One, the rate when they launch will be lower than Rhode Island Energy's. That is, has to be written into the contract. While we can't guarantee savings in future years, because I don't know what Rhode Island Energy's rate's gonna be 6 months from now, a year from now, I will not make a commitment against something that is an unknown. That would be poor form on my part and a recipe for me not to tell the truth. So I will not make a commitment that we can that it's gonna be lower than Rhode Island Energy at every time. We had the contractual commitment that at launch, it will be. And the second piece is that the administration can review it, the solicitors are gonna review it to make sure that the contract is what it says that it is. All the pieces are there, it will provide electricity supply, and that it's going to actually deliver those results. When the program was approved by the Public Utilities Commission, we brought this option back to Narragansett, to the staff first before we went to the council and said, you have 2 choices here. Right now, we could take Narragansett out to bid on its own. Totally do it. We don't have to do what they've done before. The second option is NextEra is willing to bring you into this program with the other communities at launch. Those are the options. If we go out to bid, we're probably going to see the same suppliers with the same approaches. The market's not going to be that much different because everybody else is executing this contract now. And you have the opportunity to execute it within the same month if you choose to do so. The decision was made to recommend that choice to the town council in September of 2022, and the council approved moving forward with NextEra at that time. Since that contract was executed, NextEra has begun purchasing the electricity, and in February of this year is when the rates here that have been published were finally known. At that point, we put together these marketing materials here, the information session, the information for it, and we arranged it to be mailed out to all the eligible customers. So, interesting question. What is an eligible customer? Who is eligible for this program? So the eligibility is actually set in rules with Rhode Island Energy and approved by the Public Utilities Commission. And eligible customers are, 1, anybody who's on last resort service, Rhode Island Energy's last resort service. That means if you've never gone out to select your own supplier, you're just going with the default that the utility has, you're eligible. If you have selected your own supplier, you will not have received a mailing because you will not be enrolled in the program. You've already gone out to the market and made an active choice of who your supplier is rather than accepting the default. So nobody's going to override that decision. The intention here is to change the default. Instead of Rhode Island Energy being the default supply, this is an opportunity to have the town select its own default supply and to build it out this way. And so that's why it's only those that are on last resort service that have not made another decision will be automatically enrolled in the program. Other folks, like if you are participating in a Green Up program with Rhode Island Energy, such as the 100% wind option through Green Energy Consumers Alliance, you will also not be automatically enrolled in the program. Though I will say, Green Energy Consumers Alliance is doing some webinars next week to encourage folks to leave that and join the aggregation program, because all the voluntary RECs that we have, that what's above the state minimum, we're sourcing from Green Energy Consumers Alliance. They're purchasing the renewable energy certificates from projects in Rhode Island, Massachusetts, and the region. So we know that the renewable energy that we're using in the certificates that we have are coming from local projects. So we know that the program itself is supporting development of local renewable energy sources. And so the last thing that I just want to say, so I explained why NextEra. Because of once again, it was the approach that they had and how it was going to deliver savings over the life of the agreement. Just another couple pieces of like when we were vetting them about why we thought that they were the best selection for us. And one is like with this focus on renewables, they are one of the largest investors and developers of renewable energy projects, not just in the country but in the world. When you go into the universe of electricity suppliers that are out there, a lot of them are tied to legacy coal plants, natural gas plants, nuclear plants. Like this is the legacy of electricity, and that includes NextEra. Yes, they absolutely have a history of being in the fossil fuel industry because they're an energy supplier And there are literally no other options. But what NextEra has done is significantly pivoted towards investing in renewables and renewable generation. And that is the type of supplier we want to work with in order for these programs to be able to deliver on climate goals. They also have experience serving 23 other aggregation programs in Massachusetts, including the Cape Light Compact. They are the supplier for the entire Cape and the islands, and they were selected in a similar process, and they run a very similar program to what we've been able to adapt. Excuse me. And the other big piece is that given the current just volatility in the electricity market, we needed to know that we were working with one with deeper pockets, that had financial stability. There are electricity suppliers that have gone bankrupt in the last year. There's no question about it. It's hit every state. What we know is that NextEra has a financial backing, that the risk of that is minimized. And that we know that the risk of bankruptcy, which would be a disruption to the program, is as minimal as it can be with the financial standing of the company. That's not to say that I only support large companies, but if I'm going to put all of your electricity supply on the line here for this program, I'm only going to use the ones that I can trust. And NextEra has proven to have the financial backing to be able to deliver on this program. They're fully licensed by the Division of Public Utilities to provide electricity service. And I should also note that they are one of the few qualified bidders for Rhode Island Energy's last resort service. And to be clear, last resort service, the other option that we have here, it's not actually the supply is not actually Rhode Island Energy's. They do not own any generation facilities. They actually go out to bid to the same electricity suppliers that we're working with. And so NextEra Energy is also a supplier to last resort service and will be the supplier of last resort service in April, come April. Yes, sorry, I got that. Yes, so Rhode Island, NextEra Energy Services is also one of the qualified bidders for last resort service. So the service is provided by Rhode Island Energy. Their electricity also comes from NextEra Energy amongst a couple other suppliers. So they are suppliers for our program, and they're also a supplier for last resort service. And so once again, we're able to get the same supply and the same service at a lower rate with more renewables through the aggregation program. Okay, that was a lot, and that was 15 minutes longer than I promised you that I would go. So with that, to end before we take questions, and once again, I encourage questions that you might have. I wanted to remind you of the options that you have in front of you for everybody that is an eligible customer. If you do nothing, then you will be enrolled in the standard product. That's the 9.361 cents per kilowatt hour. That's if you do nothing. You may also contact either by, if you want to opt out of the program before it starts, you have an opt-out card that all you have to do is sign and mail back before April 8th. There's a phone number that's on the card, 877-323-2778. You can call them and opt out of the program directly. You can also choose one of the other products, whether that's the basic, which has just the state minimums for renewable energy, a 50% renewable product, or a 100% renewable product. You may choose to do so by calling them. You can also go to the website, narragansettcommunitychoiceelectricity.com, where you have an opportunity to make those same choices online. The final option you have is you can also call Rhode Island Energy. If you don't want to talk to anybody involved with the program, you can call Rhode Island Energy and they can opt you out as well. So that's totally doable. I don't have Rhode Island Energy's number in front of me, but believe me, they put it on your bill and they have it. It's definitely available. I think it might be actually on the back, the second page of this. Yes. Yeah, Rhode Island Energy's, in case you don't have it, is 855-743-1101. And they can opt you out of the program as well. And so with that, we'll open the door to questions, clarifications, or any comments that you want to have on the program. Okay.
Thank you. Good presentation. I have two questions. The first is political, and I want to understand, just given the information on the local website, the ties to DeSantis, the Republican Party in Florida. The second is economic, and that is, just like the town initiated this, what happens if it flips? So that after the teaser promotion, which we've all had with Showtime and every cable network and everything else, the prices either flip-flop or reverse, is the town gonna reach out, or is it up to us as individual customers to go to the website, check it out ourselves, and then call the same number again to switch out? Okay.
Sorry, we have to manage the microphones, so only one can be on at a time, or I'm going to burst people's ears. So I'll talk to the political one first.
Okay.
And in responding to some of what's written in the Go Local Prov article, and once again, you might not like this answer. I totally recognize that. Those articles are about a different company, Florida Power and Light, which is a state-regulated utility in Florida with its connections to Florida. I will be very honest. While it is owned by the same parent company that owns the supply company here, I did not vet Florida Power and Light when reviewing this program. Why? Because Florida Power and Light has no control over this program. They have no influence over the staff that we work with. They work for a different company. Florida Power and Light is not regulated or authorized to do any business here. They do not provide electricity supply. They are a regulated utility like Rhode Island Energy in a different state. So I cannot comment about the decisions that their executives might make or the decisions that they're going to make in Florida. All I will say is that a utility in Florida being connected to the sitting governor is the same thing a utility does in every state across the country. Just like Rhode Island Energy, whether it was PPL or National Grid, donated to Dan McKee, donated to Gina Raimondo, donated to Don Carcieri. That is what the utilities do. That's how because they are regulated by the state. So once again, I can't speak to what happened in Florida. I don't know, and we did not look at what happened with the utility in Florida as a way to evaluate whether the supplier can deliver on the program here. And so that was the focus that we had, is what do they do here? I will also say, just on the political point of it, beyond Ron DeSantis, is that we saw the article, we're like, okay, let's look ourselves. We brought on somebody to help us with this. Look at their political giving across the board. What does it look like? Is this just a Republican front company? Is it a Democratic front company? What does it look like? And unsurprisingly, like other energy supply companies, they donate across the board. They donated to Chuck Schumer. They donated to Kevin McCarthy. They donated to Florida Republicans. They donated to Massachusetts Democrats. The answer is they gave money to the political system because that's how. I hate the game. I'm not hating the player. All right. I'm not blaming them for doing what every other company in their national company does, of giving money to two sides. Once again, I understand if your opposition to the program is that the Florida utility is connected to Ron DeSantis, I understand. I get it. I've got no argument with you. That is a statement of your values, and I absolutely accept that. I did not judge them on that in making this recommendation. I was looking at, will they deliver on what the program's intentions were? And the answer to that was a resounding yes. Yeah. Okay, political, economic, and then we're going to get to you. I apologize. So what happens in November? What happens if we're lower? Or we could be lower, but what happens if we're higher than Rhode Island Energy? So what we've put in the aggregation plan is that when we communicate a rate change, first and foremost, we need to use all the same ways that Rhode Island Energy communicates rate changes. So that's traditional media, press releases, interviews, if people will do interviews and talk about electricity. And then we're also adding on communications through the town channels. That's actually putting stuff up at town hall, attending town council meetings to do it, doing another one of these to describe what the different rates are and why we got them, using social media to do so. And then also, as we're learning about this, is like, if there are other ways of communicating to the public in each community, the answer is just let us know. What we have not committed to do is mail everybody another letter. The reason why is that if the cost of mailing all of these letters is added into the rates that we pay. So if we want a direct letter, we can get one, but it's going to up our rates because somebody's going to pay for the paper, the printing, the postage, and all of that.
But you're committed to posting it on the web?
Yes, post it on the web, doing the press releases, and then also I commit. It's not me. I've got a colleague to be here. And once again, we'll go in front of the town council. Our intention is to provide regular reports to the town council. We can do monthly about here's how many people are on the program, here's how much money they saved, here are the renewable energy that's been utilized by the program. And then when we get towards the 6-month period, to say this was the result, here are the new rates. New rates for the aggregation program will go into effect in November. while new rates for Rhode Island Energy will go into effect in October, the month before. For the time being, we are 1 month behind them. And honestly, that's by design. That is so that when we're doing our rates, we know what theirs are, rather than trying to do it at the same time when we're comparing against the unknown. So we're staggering ourselves so that we're constantly aware of what Rhode Island Energy rates are going to be. So that's the economic piece of it. And I think, as I said before, is like, once again, I feel very confident that when I'm coming back to you in November, this is not an introductory rate. Like, this is the product of strategic buying and a really good, once again, I believe one of the best suppliers that we could work with, utilizing their knowledge of the market and doing so for all of our benefit. And once again, that's why we wanted a partner, because Rhode Island Energy does none of that, because they have no incentive to do so, they have no mandate to do so. NextEra wants your business. And if they want your business, they've got to provide customer service and a product of value. And so that's what we believe the program's delivering.
Anyone else?
Oh, you had a question. You're next, sir.
Hi. No, actually, I have a number of questions. I hope it's on your mind too. One of the things is you keep saying you can opt out. If you opt out now, can you opt back in at a later date?
Sorry. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, you may opt, if you opt out now, you can opt in at any time. Yes, there's no cost to come back into the program. I'm going to give one caveat there. Once again, I want to be transparent. If there's a situation where that might not be the case, I'm going to tell you right now. And the answer is industrial customers. So, once again, not you, but think of somebody who uses 1,000 times more electricity than you. If we know they're in the program, we buy that electricity leading up to it. And then we deliver that electricity. If an industrial customer is in the program, we bought all electricity and they're out, we go, well, we bought too much now, but we'll deal with that because that was always a possibility. And then we don't buy electricity from them. 3 months later, they're like, oh, we got kicked off our other supplier, we want back into the program. We're gonna be like, hey, whoa. We didn't buy for you, so what we're gonna do is you can be in the program, but for the rest of the duration of this rate period, we have to offer you a market rate because we gotta go buy the electricity right now to do it. For the next rate period, we'll have you folded in. You're not going to have a different thing. But the idea is that if specifically industrial customers, large users, or if any of you organize 5,000 people to act collectively in this, well, it might have the same result. But the idea is that if there's a large user that's in, leaves, and then comes back, they might be offered a different rate to make sure we match that market difference there. But for residential customers, opt back in, no cost. I will also say that if you opt in 1 month, opt out the next month, opt in the next month, opt out the following month, you're probably going to get a phone call to be like, what's going on here? It's not really a problem for the program, but we're just like, this is an interesting behavior, and we don't entirely understand why you're doing that. But that's a different question. Sorry.
Okay, next question.
Frank Flynn. I'm currently a net metering customer because I have solar panels. And when I produce more, the panels produce more than what the house uses, I get a renewable energy credit. Will that renewable energy credit be provided by Rhode Island Energy or NextEra Energy, or who calculates the avoided cost for that credit that I would hopefully continue to receive in the future?
Yeah, thank you for that one. That's an important piece, which is great because more people have put up solar panels in these distributed generation. This is excellent. So nothing's going to change to the net metering credits that you get. So that's a long-term agreement with Rhode Island Energy now, and they're going to give you credit value for what you produce at the last resort service rate. That's what's in the agreement, that's what's in the law, that's what you get credit for. Now, any electricity that you use beyond what you generate, you can get at the aggregation rate. So you can benefit from the lower rate for what you use, but you'll still get credits for the higher rate for what you generate. And the other piece of that is all the billing goes through Rhode Island Energy. We are not sending separate bills. It's all using a single bill from Rhode Island Energy. What changes is the supply services section. The name of the supplier and the rate will change. But other than that, all the billing still goes to Rhode Island Energy. We still pay Rhode Island Energy, and this program doesn't change it doesn't override any existing net metering or renewable energy growth contracts.
Currently, the renewable energy credits, about 10 cents a kilowatt hour above the energy price. That kind of conflicts with what
Yes.
you said.
Sorry, to clarify, so the net metering credits you get are based on the last resort service rate plus the distribution charges. So the delivery, you get credit for delivery services in addition to the last resort service. So it's, think of it as like LRS plus this, and that's the additional 10 cents.
Distribution is about 10, 11 cents.
Exactly. So, thank you.
Next question, lady over there. Hang on. Yes, you.
So I did do a little research online, mostly looking for reviews of the company in general. And as I understand it, this is a nationwide company, so we're not just looking at the stuff they're doing in Florida and the stuff they're doing in Texas. You can get contracts with them anywhere in the country. So what concerned me, and I also understand when people write reviews, it's more to complain than to say you've done a good job. So I understand that. However, those who are complaining is of great concern. The customer service that you are promoting is not there, particularly if you were trying to opt out. Calls weren't returned. You were asked to opt out, and a month or two later, when the rates go way up, they don't get opted out for a month or two later. They're socked with really high energy bills. So when I actually called, and I did, the phone number, I got a very nice lady from Michigan who actually gave me information that wasn't quite right because I looked it up myself. But that's okay. Very nice, very cordial. But the question I have is will there be a contact in Rhode Island, if anything, for the cities and towns for us to talk to so that maybe the customer service will be better? I have some real concerns about some of the customer service reviews that I've been seeing around the country. And if there's someone here that we can communicate with, it may wind up being a little bit better.
Sorry about that. When you say somebody here, do you mean somebody from NextEra here, or I just want clarification?
No, some kind of person. It
Yeah.
could be from within the town. It could be NextEra. It could be someone that if we're going to call to opt out, we can call them and not some
Yes.
person in Michigan. And like I said, the reviews for customer service like that are not good.
Okay. I appreciate that, and thank you for sharing that. What that says to me in particular is that this is something that we're going to have to watchdog them for, and to be very cognizant of complaints that are raised for it, whether it happens within the municipal government or if it happens that, and once again, at the Division of Public Utilities and Carriers, you can register a complaint about any supplier that's there. And we've communicated with them to make sure that comes back to us. And so what I'm hearing there is like there's a disconnect between what I've said and the promises they've made us versus the national reviews. All right, it sounds like I got my job cut out for me to make sure that they're doing this. And what our intentions were is, one, to set up the specific call center so that we knew that Rhode Island customers have somebody directly to contact that is at NextEra. So the call center is at NextEra. And they're the ones that operate it. Now, outside of that, especially if you want the opt-out piece, if you don't want to deal with NextEra and you want to opt out, Rhode Island Energy is your local entity that can do it without ever having to communicate with NextEra. If we don't like what they're doing, they're not being responsive, you have the safety valve of going to Rhode Island Energy saying, I want out of that program, and they'll do it. The other piece that is there, and once again, you've just met me. I'm not expecting you to trust me entirely. I'm seeking to build that here. I'm doing what I can. The websites that are here where those requests come, those go through us, Good Energy. They don't go directly to NextEra, so that way we can track the requests that are coming in and not just rely on NextEra, because we know they're a vendor. The relationship with the vendor requires maintenance and requires constant communication, and from our perspective, also requires holding them accountable to the standards that they have set. And what I hope is that we're going to be able to deliver on the promises that we've made, and it's our responsibility to do so. And if we don't like it, there are, like, the town cannot choose to renew with NextEra if we go, their customer service was terrible. we're not going to come back to you, and we're not going to ask you to service the program anymore. That is absolutely an option we have, and poor customer service would be a #1 reason to do that. At the same time, if you don't like if you don't like NextAir and their customer service, and you think Good Energy is the one that's falling down on the job, the town can fire us too. And as well, they can fire us with any notice that they want to provide and kick us out and be like, we're doing a bad job as a consultant. Bring somebody in to manage this program because we're not doing a good job. So it's my life that's on the line. Well, my prosperity, my job that's on the line, if you will. And so that's why we've tried to set up a situation where there's multiple avenues and we're not reliant on just them. We also have us with the online options. We have Rhode Island Energy with a phone option, and we have them at their call center.
So just a follow-up. I know you just listed everything. I'm old. I don't remember everything.
I get that.
So, I mean, the concern I have is the lack of communication. Where do we go that says these are our options for choice for communication? Are we calling the town hall? Are we calling Good Energy? Are we calling where are the choices? What is the number? Is it this number? Excuse me, in here, the nice Michigan lady, is that the NextAir point person for Rhode Island? That's what, it's not clear.
Got it. So, once again, respecting that the answer to this is, for better or for worse, it's on the website. The website, Narragansett Community Choice Electricity.com, is where we've laid out all the options. And based off of this, I am going to go back to that website when we're done here and be like, I'm saying that it has all the contact options. I'm going to go remind myself to make sure that it has them all listed there.
Right, are we ready for another question?
Yeah. Sorry, thank you. Sorry, write that down.
Hi, how are you? I think I talked to that girl in Michigan, Cameron. And I got something from Rhode Island Energy saying starting April 1st, they're lowering our rates. They didn't say to what, and I haven't called to pursue it. But it was funny because they're firing back already. And I'm glad that you cleared up the part about the Florida company, because I had read all of that too. I was an English major in school, so I start researching everything and I don't stop until I finish. The paper that you sent us, you put us in the standard rate, which is 2 cents more for 5% of renewable voluntary, which 5% in the scheme of things is very much. Is that your 2 cents worth, and that we're going to pay?
0.2 of a cent.
2 cents of a cent.
Sorry, 0.2 of a cent.
Okay. No, that's all right. I'm seeing that the rate is cheaper with basic, and that's what I talked to Cameron about out in Michigan. She was very nice. She had great customer service skills, and she said I can enroll in that, and that seemed to be. You put us in this one, which was, that's the one we're opted in, instead of having us going to pick your own option. But I like this one. If I try this, I'm going to go with the basic. And but now I want to find out what Rhode Island Energy, because these numbers aren't right anymore, based on what they just sent out to all their customers.
Yes. So just to clarify that, they are bringing down their rates from the current winter rates. Like if you look at your bill right now, the winter rate for Rhode Island Energy is 17.7 cents. And so they are bringing it down in April to 10.675 cents. And then if you participate in the program the next month, the rate will then go down one more time to 9.361 cents. Sorry for all of the numbers in decimal places. So yes, the intent that is, they are having lower rates come April in comparison to what they did this last winter, when it was really an astronomical spike, the 17-cent rates. And then to the other piece of the basic versus standard, the difference there, that get the right number, 0.21 cents difference between that's the additional cost of buying 5% more renewable energy certificates for it. And just like the difference between 9.361 to the 10,
5% gonna have any kind of a dent in anything?
5% times all of the people in Narragansett, times all of the people in Providence, times South Kingstown, times Barrington, Central Falls. 5% when we're talking about a roughly 130,000 accounts, that adds up.
Where's Warwick, Cranston, and Pawtucket?
Yes, so, you're talking about the next phase here.
What are the other 30 communities in Rhode Island that did not sign on to this? What are they doing? Why aren't they signing on? Or are they signing on?
Yeah, so I'll start with the beginning of as I mentioned before, Bristol and Middletown, we're in the process of developing their plans right now. North Kingstown, in the end of December of last year, passed a resolution to start the process. I would say beginning in the summer of 2019, I essentially was a one-man road show. I went to every town and city council, well, not necessarily council, the staff, the administration of everyone except for, oh no, I didn't go to Block Island because they're not allowed to participate. I didn't go to Foster because they're on Pasco, so they're not allowed to participate. And I may not have gone to West Coventry. No, I went to Coventry. No, anyway, so I was like a one-man road show. And I've said, yes, West Greenwich, thank you. You read my mind. Okay. And I went to the administrations. I set up appointments. I just dropped in to town halls and be like, hey, the General Assembly authorized this program. You got 5 minutes, I'm going to talk to you about it. And the 7 communities that went first are the ones that say, I like the sound of this. I think there's something to do here. And so I spent my time with the 7 communities that wanted to go first. The other communities that I talked to were very much like, hey, we're skeptical, go deliver. Go prove that what you're talking about is going to work, and then come back to us. So I think you'll see me this summer on roadshow number 2, being like, so you asked us to deliver, we got a program that's 12% savings, 5% more renewables, that's the goal of the program, are you interested? And I'm not gonna force anyone, well, I can't force anyone to do it. No one's given me such powers. I will talk to anybody that wants to do it. I will go in front of every one of those councils to say, and stand behind the purposes of the program and know that they can participate as well. But in the end, why did I not go to them all? It's honestly time. It's me, like we've got a staff of 5 people here in New England. There's 2 of us that do the sales work. 7 of us in New England. 2 of us do a lot of the direct outreach to municipalities, and I'm the one who primarily works in Rhode Island. I live here. I'm a resident of North Smithfield. And so once we got to 7, I pretty much told them, like, yeah, well, I could go and sell this some more, but I don't think you want me to, like, my family wants to see me, is the way I put it. So the reason why we didn't push, once we got the first community set up and wanting to move forward, we didn't push other communities to join because we wanted to prove that this is going to work before we come back to them.
So we're kind of like the guinea pigs.
I didn't say that. Yes, you did.
We're gonna go around, we'll get back, I know you folks have more questions. Lady here, and then the young lady in the back.
Hi, not to belabor the point, but there are, oh, sorry, I don't want to shout. Aside from the contributions that NextEra has made, which are negligible really because every company contributes several different parties, there are other lawsuits that are pending in Florida, and there are very questionable practices by the CEO specifically, running candidates with the same name to kind of muddy the waters, if you will. So all of that concerns me, first of all. Second of all, I apologize if my questions are in the handouts, but there weren't enough. If anybody has a duplicate and wants to share, we didn't get any over on this side. So quickly, does Rhode Island Energy have a percentage of renewables also?
Yes, so Rhode Island Energy's last resort service has 23% renewables this year, and that is set by the state renewable energy standard. So, and
23 and NextEra is 5?
NextEra is 5 above that, so it's actually 28% for it.
And then, how long is Narragansett's commitment to NextEra when you say if their customer relations fails, then we can opt out of, collectively. How long is the contract with them for our town?
Yes, the contract is 5 years.
Okay, and, yeah, that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take 3 steps this way away from the microphone, but I know there's a camera. How wide angle?
I apologize if you said this already, but you told us how rates would be communicated, but when will new rates be communicated? It would be great to know.
Yes.
Thanks.
So the way that, I'm going to give you a little about how the sausage is made moment. So with NextEra, it is roughly 45 days before the rates go into effect is when we'll get draft rates from them. What Good Energy then does is we audit their numbers. Okay, so you said this, why is that number this? Why is this factor that? Show me your renewable energy costs. And the intention is within 2 weeks of that to finalize the rates after we get their draft and begin publicizing them 30 days before they'd be, minimum 30 days before they'd be effective. Yep.
Next.
A quick question, the rentals, long-term rentals have an option to get into this also?
So yes, it's determined by whoever the account holder is. So whoever has the electricity account with Rhode Island Energy is the one that's authorized to make decisions. This is not my choice. This is the rules that we're operating under. So if a landlord is covering the utilities and has utilities in their name, they're the ones that get to make a choice. If it's the renter that has utilities in their name, it's going to be their option of both which product they use or whether they're in the program or out.
Got another question here.
It seems like the offerings are moving target. You said that the last resort service is no longer 9.761.
Yes, the 9.761 was proposed by Rhode Island Energy in January. They amended their proposal in March and have upped it to 10.675. Yes, and that is subject to PUC approval, which is, they told me it's scheduled for the 27th, but they haven't made that date public yet.
Okay, and that will start April 1.
Rhode Island Energy
So it
starts
may
April 1.
change again?
Based off of my experience here, I can't say no because it's not my call. The commissioners make the choice. But based off of my experience,
They shouldn't allow that.
based off my experience, what they do is they do their initial filing in January, then they change their administrative reconciling factors from previous overcollection or undercollection. Then they revise the renewable energy piece component of it. And those happen in March. And then they have their final rate for review literally days before it goes into effect. And we've been doing it this way for God knows how many years, and to me, it sounds like a pretty terrible system, but just my opinion.
I agree.
Okay.
Now, will those changes affect any of your offerings? Will your basic,
No, our offerings are set. They will
They
change.
are set.
They're set until November.
and they come into effect a month, you're staggered a month from what you said?
Yes, they'll go into effect 1 month after Rhode Island Energy's.
You said that there's no penalty to opt out. Would Rhode Island Energy charge you a fee to get back in with them that you know of?
Well, they are legally prohibited from doing so. So if they do, let's call the Attorney General and
Okay, because you said that you guys could with larger accounts. I'm just wondering if they have an option of doing it.
They
do not.
They do not. They do not.
Okay, so they have to offer
The,
last resort.
yeah, and just so you, like, their last resort service has like 3 different categories. There's a residential,
Sure.
commercial, and industrial, and their rates are a little different between them, but yes. Oh, and also, just so you know, I think probably most of you received the residential letter. We mailed out similar letters to commercial and industrial customers because the rates are different for our commercial and industrial rate classes, just like Rhode Island Energy does.
Who's next? Okay, this gentleman right here.
If you have a 5-year contract with 7 municipalities, how much is that costing? How much are we paying your company?
So the municipality does not pay us at all. So the way Yeah, it's on here. We have a fee of 0.001 cents per kilowatt hour. So this rate, the 9.361, that one at the end, that's us. And that goes for the duration of the contract.
Other questions? You've already asked them, so I want to make sure other people have a chance. I'll get back to you and the two ladies up front.
Hello. I was wondering if you could say more about where the renewable energy comes from geographically. Is this all Rhode Island? Are they cutting down forests to put in, solar panels? If you could talk more about the renewable energy part of this.
I'm actually going to break that into two questions because there's two answers, for better or for worse. So there's the renewable energy standard. The the required energy or renewables are coming from NextEra. And they have to source it from facilities that were built after 1997 and can deliver renewable electricity into the New England grid. Those are the criteria. I cannot tell you exactly which projects they are because it's like a whole big bowl that you mix them all together and they buy the certificates from. So that's the answer for our renewable energy standard mandate. Now, all of our voluntary ones, we got to be a little bit more picky and choosy about because we could be more directive of it, which is why we brought on Green Energy Consumers Alliance to be the renewable energy broker. And we did that because they've got some good standards about the renewable energy certificates that they buy, and they're public about it. They say, these are the type of certificates that we'll buy, and it's not biomass. If you burn something, they may call it renewable, but it ain't renewable to us, so we're not adding it in. And what we're able to work with them to do is identify projects specifically in Rhode Island and Massachusetts to supply those voluntary RECs. So it's some turbines in Johnston. There's a capped landfill in East Providence that has solar panels on it. Those are the type of projects. And I can get you those are the ones that are in my head at the moment, but I can get you a list of where they provide the renewable energy, and in fact, or where they purchase it from. And if you actually want to go way into the weeds on that, they have their 2 webinars coming up next week where I can tell you for sure that their staff would love nothing more than to have somebody say, can you tell us where you purchase your electricity from or your renewable energy certificates and why? Since that is the core mission of who they are and why we really appreciate working with them on this. So those voluntary ones we can source directly, and we plan on providing regular reports of this is what we expect, and then we're going to provide reports of this is what happened. Because with all of these things, we can say this is the goal, but until you're accountable to actually reporting back on that, then it's just a wish out there. So one of the things that we've been working on is what's called an energy source disclosure label. So just so that you can hold us accountable to this is that it's approximately 9 months after each period, after each quarter, we have to then have all the renewable energy certificates purchased and then sent to, it's called NEPOOL GIS, that is the regulator of certificates in the region. We have to deposit the certificates with them and they retire them so nobody else can ever use them. And through that process, we're able to inform our disclosure label that we will be putting up and updating quarterly to say, we promised 100% renewable, this is where your renewables came from. We promised 28% renewables, here's where the 28% renewables came from. And for the other stuff, here's the particulate matter pollution, the NOx, the SOx, the carbon emissions associated with with the source. So, sorry, NOx, I said that. Nitrous oxide and sulfur dioxide, 2 primary pollutants of fossil fuel generation. But the idea is that we want to be both transparent about the sources, and then for sources that are not renewable, what the environmental impact is of the non-renewable sources. So, I'm sorry, I went down that path. You asked. We actually paused the entire PUC review process of our plans when they asked a similar question and said, how are you going to disclose all this? And we gave them a label and said, this is what we've been using in Massachusetts. And they said, and I apologize for, they just pretty much said, that's crap. That's not a very good one. And we go, now that you bring it up, I find this to be a little bit incomprehensible. I mean, I know it meets the legal requirements, but you'll read this and be like, I don't have any more information about where my electricity is coming from or what its impact is. So we spent a 3-month process with them and be like, let's redesign one. Let's create one with the sole intention of being better, one, more clear and transparent of what we're promising, but also have this ability to demonstrate delivering on those commitments. We did that about a 3-month process with them, and they specifically approved these programs contingent upon the supplier we're using adopting this certificate, this label. If this goes well, and we truly have developed a new disclosure label that is more comprehensible, gives people real information, the PUC has said that they believe that might make it mandatory for all suppliers in the state, including the utility. And this is just, and I say that not to tout the work that we did. It was fun because I'm a nerd and this is what I do. But it also is one of those pieces that I actually believe that knowledge of the system is critical to us being able to change it. So I think a lot of us believe that the electricity system is not delivering what we want it to deliver. That might be from a climate aspect, it might be from a financial aspect, it might just be like, I just don't like Rhode Island Energy making all this money off of poles and wires. But the only way to counter those things is knowledge. We have to know what it is, and we have to know what the system is, and we have to know what's in the system. And so this label is like one piece to say, we want you all to be informed consumers here. And that means you leave the program. I hope it's because you found a better deal than what we have to offer, because they might be out there. And that the ability to determine if it's a better deal comes from knowing, wait, what is the renewable energy piece of this? Why did the electricity rates change so often? Like, what is the situation here? And so what I hope is that for those that choose to leave the program, that's absolutely fine. Find a better deal than what's available. So, sorry, I went on a...
Jen, can you just tell people what it's actually called the Green Energy Consumers Alliance and maybe I should just do this.
Oh.
So just so everybody knows, what Jamie was talking about before is the Green Energy Consumers Alliance, and the meeting or the Zoom call that they're having, I just lost it, hold on a second, is on Tuesday, March 21st at 7:30 p.m. And if you go to their website, which is greenenergyconsumers.org, greenenergyconsumers.org, you can sign up for that webinar, and it's all about this program.
Any other questions, gentlemen in the back? Coming.
So I actually, a couple years ago, signed up for one of these alternative energy programs, and they were wonderful for the first 6 months. And then all of a sudden, the rates changed in December when all the Christmas lights go up. And all of a sudden, my bill was ridiculous, and I called them up, and they said, well, that's our new rate. And I said, I'm going to switch out. When I went back to National Grid at the time, I was charged like $100 to transfer back. Was that from National Grid, or was that from the, that was from the other, okay. And
yes. So that's one of the change fees and one of the goals of the aggregation program is that the competitive market, as you saw, wasn't working for individual customers. I would go so far, and I'm standing in a public meeting that's being filmed here, and I've said this in front of town councils. The competitive market without aggregation is predatory. It does not have an interest, and it does not share your interest. It wants to lock you into an agreement that you forget about, and then never do anything, and then puts in these fees that if you leave when something crazy happens, they then get your money on the way out as well. That is what aggregation is designed to counteract. And the way that it's able to do so is because of the interjection of the town council. Because what the town council is able to do is say, we will only have a program if it meets these consumer protection provisions, such as no opt-out fees, no change fees. And so the suppliers, if you call them like, yo, I don't want that opt-out fee, and I also don't want you to change my rate to a number without telling me in 6 months. And they'll say, oh, cool, leave. I'm not going to sell you anything. But what we're able to do is by aggregating that demand, the suppliers go, that's a lot of business. What are the standards? What are the requirements you have for us to provide that service? And that's where we go, hey, the town council met, and they put them all into this plan. Here's the plan, and I'm going to reiterate to you. No opt-out fees, no change fees, no unannounced price changes. There has to be a process by which we vet the cost of the cost of the supply, and you have to be committed to distributing the information and communicating to it, and not just so you just don't take my word for it. There was the Attorney General in Massachusetts did a 4-year study and report, Maura Healey before she was governor, looking at this exact question. Why did the competitive market not work for independent? And when they got the data, they go, actually, let's clarify that question. The competitive market is not working for individual customers. All of our aggregation programs, people are saving money and they're not paying these fees in Massachusetts. So that's one of the reasons why I came to councils and said, there are people in your community that have been preyed upon by these suppliers. When I was in Providence, it's even worse. If you have English as your second language, if you're a senior citizen, that's where they go and they knock on your door, they get your account number, and they will enroll you in their program. I wish I was kidding, or I wish I was exaggerating. I'm not. And so the intention here is to say, that's not what we're going to do. And the town will only sign a contract on behalf and to mitigate those risks, and in order to insert themselves to protect their residents from those type of agreements. And that is one of the reasons why I was willing to go on a 4-year journey of this project and talk to town councils and every member of the public that will possibly ask a question, is that we need to take control of our electricity supply, and that means not just relying on a utility with no vested interest in it, and not relying on private companies to just do what's in our interest, because they won't. We have to have bargaining power. And that's what the aggregation program is. It's us being able to bargain with the competitive electricity market and to get a good deal for ourselves.
The other question I have is between the standard and the basic. Is there any reason, other than the fact that we want to contribute to renewable energy, that we wouldn't choose the basic? Because it is it's only a little bit cheaper, but it is cheaper. Is there any difference other than the fact that we just want to contribute a little bit?
If honestly, if cost is the #1 key in your decision making for electricity supply, choose the basic. Save every dollar and every cent that you can. I personally I'm a 100% renewable person, surprising nobody in the room that's listened to me for 5 minutes. But and as I said to you earlier, that's me making a choice of putting my money on that set of values, because that's important to me. I judge nobody who just wants to save money on electricity. Go for it. Go to the basic.
So is there going to be, let's say the entire town decides to go with basic. Is that going to be an issue for this program, since 5% above renewable energy?
No.
Okay.
So it's not going to change this. It might change the way that we buy electricity in the next rate period and the number of RECs that we buy in advance. But one of the good things about the REC market is that we buy a bunch of them in advance, but we don't buy everything we expect you to use, because we don't want to over purchase. So we wait till we've used it all, we have the commitment, and the system that's set up for accounting this gives you about 1 year to reconcile, so that we don't buy too much in advance, and everything that we haven't bought, we purchase afterwards and then retire. Sorry, that's, once again, I go into the electricity system, but I'm not always sure how to answer the questions without going there.
All right, any other questions? Got a gentleman up there.
We're ignoring him, right? Okay. Okay.
These folks have extra questions, I know.
I will stay here all night. I'll do a matinee on Saturdays.
Hi, I'd like to expand on the gentleman's question about going back to Rhode Island Energy. I understand that there's no penalty, but do they have to give you the same rate that they're giving everyone else?
Yes. That is the rate that's set for their April to September, and they cannot change it.
Okay. And the other question is, are fuel cells involved in any of this renewable energy in your company?
Do you mean like battery technology, or do you mean like hydrogen fuel cells?
Hydrogen fuel.
Not to my knowledge. I have no awareness of hydrogen fuel cells being part of the renewable portfolio. So now that you ask, I am going to ask Green Energy Consumers Alliance whether it does, because I will honestly tell you, I have no knowledge of it, no one's told me anything about it, but I never asked them that question. So, thank you.
All right.
Exactly. It is.
Hi. Will your price always be below the Rhode Island Energy price, as it's stated today?
You mean for this rate period right here?
Going forward? After this rate period, the next rate period, will,
I
is
cannot-
your intentions of your company to be below Rhode Island
Oh,
Energy?
yeah. My intentions are, and I think we put a system in place to deliver that, but I cannot promise that result. I don't know what Rhode Island Energy's rate's going to be in October, so I can't guarantee that we're going to be below it. So I cannot make that guarantee. But our intention is, yes, to always be below last resort service. Yeah, so April, they're lowering it from the 17 to the 10.7. And then in October, they're going to have a new rate, but we don't know what it is. It's unknown at this point. But I also, just one last thought that crossed my mind is that once again, we can't guarantee it, but our intention is that you have a month before the rate goes into effect to know. And that it's our responsibility to make sure that word gets out publicly, posted and the like, so that if our rate's lower than Rhode Island Energy, you go, okay, good deal, I'll stay in it. If it's higher than Rhode Island Energy, you have the opportunity to opt out for it. And once again, I can talk to track record, which is every one of our Massachusetts clients saved over the life of our contract. But there were times, 6-month rate periods, where our rate was higher than Eversource's or National Grid's in Massachusetts. It happened. And what we seek to do is just let people know, and they can make the choice whether they stay in the program for that rate period or not. I'd have to go back to get the exact number, but it was usually within tenths of a penny, the type of pieces. So the way it often worked, and this is because in Massachusetts we would set a rate and then we would extend it for 2 or 3 years. So it's one rate, it's not going to change for 3 years. You know what your rate is, but then what happens is Eversource or National Grid goes like this. The idea being that in the winter, we're going to be way below them because of how the rate was set. And in the summer, we're going to be within the margin. And sometimes that margin was above them, and sometimes that margin was below them. But then when it comes back to their higher winter rates, our rate didn't change. But once again, that's not this program, is that we didn't want to set a rate for 3 years because it's too volatile right now. And that's why we opted to do these rate periods so that we could evaluate how are we going to set that rate in winter to make sure we do it. But then also, instead of being like, we might be a little higher in the summer, but we're not going to worry about it, to be like, no, now our job is to deliver those competitive rates each rate period until we can get to a 1-year rate period where we have confidence that it delivers that same value. You mean for the aggregation programs? So just so you know, for the folks online, she asked, are Massachusetts programs still on 2-year rate periods? It's a variety, because some are like 2 to 3 year rates that we signed a year ago or 2 years ago, and they are. Some have been, when the market started getting volatile, we started doing 1-year rates in Massachusetts. But then what we're also doing is that now that we've worked with NextEra to develop this type of product, we're inviting our Massachusetts customers to be like, you should explore how NextEra is doing it. And instead of setting a rate and forgetting it for a number of years, there's a product here that is more likely to deliver those savings than a set it and forget it rate. So it's a little all over the place because they all signed their contracts at different times, and they all signed it with different suppliers.
Hi. So question, so every 6 months when you let us know what the new rate is, will you also let us know what Rhode Island Energy's is?
Yes.
Or do we have to seek that out on
No.
our own to try to compare?
We're going to include them both, even if
Okay.
it's to our detriment because we got a higher rate. It's important for everybody to make the decision there. And just like we've made sure on the websites, it's got the Rhode Island Energy rate and our rates. And that's the same commitment, is that when we do that, it will include both. Yeah.
Thank you. So if I look at my bill, there are 3 buckets. There's the supply charge, which you, no. Well, I mean, everyone's bill is just going to have different numbers, but there's delivery services, which will stay the same, supply, which will change, and then there's something called other charges adjustments. So if I look to see what it is, it's called gross earnings tax. What's it a tax on?
As I think someone back there has the answer. I could give you an answer, but I'm not a tax professional, so I
No,
don't
but is it on?
know for sure.
Me personally, on the electric company, and?
The electric company.
So will that change also?
No.
Is my question.
No, that's a tax on, my understanding, subject to like double checking that exact tax, because that's not my specialty, is that that's a tax on the utility. Or the
Rhode Island
supply.
Energy,
Yeah.
or if I go with NextEra on NextEra?
It's a tax on your total bill.
Yeah, it's a tax on the.
Oh, so it's a function of the total amount paid?
Yeah, and that's what I was checking.
Into the state as your total, into the general fund.
Okay, so where I was going with this is if the supply bucket goes down and your total goes down, that should go down as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
It is, as they say in the industry, volumetric. It's based on the amount that you use. Yeah.
Thank you.
Have any of the municipalities in Massachusetts who were in aggregate programs dropped out of aggregate programs?
So we're not the only consultant that runs these programs, so I can't comment on programs that are run by other companies, because I just don't have that knowledge, though I'm sure I could Google that and figure it out. But none of our programs have terminated during the life of it.
Anybody?
He's still here.
Mike, Meg has, Meg.
Sir?
Meg.
Meg said she wasn't back.
Hi, Jamie. So just to be clear, I heard you talk about Florida Power and Light, but your company that you represent owns Florida and Power and Light, right? So it's a fully owned subsidiary of NextEra, just to be clear, right?
So it's not a company I work for. I just want to be.
No, I know, you're a consultant,
Yes.
I get it, you work for your own company. But I'm saying NextEra is the parent company of Florida Power and Light, right?
So NextEra is the owner of Florida Power and Light.
Right.
And it's also the owner of NextEra Energy Services.
Right.
And Florida
But
Power,
it's-
yeah, sorry.
Florida Power and Light is a fully owned subsidiary of NextEra, right?
To my knowledge.
So they're inextricably linked, let's face it.
Yes, the supplier and the utility both share the same parent
Right.
company. Yes.
Thank you. And then the last question is, just to be clear, so we all understand we can opt in to our current provider. We can only opt out with you. Now, at the end of 6 months, I'm just curious what the precise process will be. You've been very good in telling us that you're going to give us the comparative rate analysis and show us how the rates are fluctuating or not. But I'm just curious, are you going to be as aggressive at the end of every 6 months as you are now in terms of letting us know? Because what I'm a little squeamish about is that I subscribe to the New York Times or the Washington Post for $1 for every 3 months, and then before I know it, the next month I'm getting a bill for $29.99. And I forgot that I had subscribed. So I'm just wondering if it's like that and what the process will be. How will I know what to do at the end of 6 months? Thank you.
Yes. So I can give you, all I have to give you in this moment is my word that I'll do it. And you can, everyone here can judge the value of my word on your own criteria. Yes, I am telling you now that I am committed to providing that transparency and providing that information to every one of our clients. Especially because my idea here isn't that in 6 months we're going to jack up the rates in order to make more money, because we don't make any more money that way. There's no value to us. If people leave the program because I'm bad at my job or we don't offer a good product, you will leave the program. And in that case, either NextEra delivers on its promises, it means that Good Energy isn't able to do so. My idea here is to create a workable program that we're happy with for 5 years, not a 6-month period. And if we're higher next month, I want you all to see me here and say, we're offering you a worse rate than Rhode Island Energy. And I still want you to stay in the program. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to come here and I'll give you the 5 reasons why I think you should still be in the program. Surprise, surprise, cheat sheet alert. It's going to be about climate issues. I'm giving my hand here. But what I want you to do is to stay with the program, because then 6 months later, when we have a lower rate, I still want the folks in the program. And yes, it's one, because this is my job, this is my business, I get that. But also that informed and active participants here is what's going to make this program be able to do more over time. Because the idea here, as I said before, once again, unabashed climate is a big issue for me and why I do this. We are quickly going to get to 100% renewable on our for electricity supply. New law was passed last year. We're going to be to 100% renewable electricity across the board by 2033. That's the mandate. So now you have the question of what is the value of this program if it's not just doing that. And what I'd say is that the value of buying these additional RECs diminishes as we get closer to there. So we have to be more creative. If we're going to use our electricity supply and our purchasing of electricity to do more to address climate, we have to figure out how to make it so this program can support microgrids, because now we're purchasing our electricity in a group and we're able to wall ourselves off from the larger grid through renewable energy generation. We can invest directly into renewable energy generation in the community. We can provide grants and loans to low-income folks to bridge gaps so that they can increase their amount of renewable energy generation. These are all things that aggregation of programs are doing across the country. And my goal here is not to just woo people with a low rate and then be like, great, we're going to up the rate and everyone's going to make more money later. If we up the rate and you all leave the program, we're not in business anymore. But what we want to be able to do is have a program that reflects the values of the town and allows the town and its community to engage in this industry and engage in this system in a way that can make positive change. So that's why I will come here and I will say our rates are higher and I will give you these reasons to stay in the program, because I want this program to last. It's not a 6-month flash in the pan. This is a commitment for years. And once again, my word, the value of that statement is only as good as the word that I give it. So you can please judge me on the ability for me to keep that, but I stand by what I say. Yeah.
I have a couple of technical questions. The first one is anybody who is currently enrolled in the low-income rate class, how does that work for them?
Yes, so there's both a full bill 25% or 30% discount for low and moderate income folks. It depends on how they qualify for it through LIHEAP or income. Mm-hmm. That applies to the full bill regardless of who the supplier is. So there will be no change to those programs. The individuals that receive that benefit have to take no action in order to continue to receive that benefit. It continues to move forward. Could they opt into one of these programs then? Yes. Okay. And even if they opt into the higher rate one, they will still have the full 25 and 30% subsidy. Okay. Another question that I have is if somebody happens to have a credit on their account right now, it just gets paid down, right? Yes, and that's one of the reasons why we're doing single billing with the utility is that so anybody that has credits, renewable energy agreements, is that it doesn't change that at all, because that still happens at the billing level, and we want to make sure our billing system doesn't change for people. And I just want to clarify for individuals with solar power who are, basically selling their solar back to the grid. Does it make sense to choose one of these options? I mean, I agree with you completely as far as climate change and the environment is concerned. But is there anything that we're supposed to be doing? Yeah. So from my perspective, it's all about the electricity that you use but don't generate. Where does that come from? Or what? And that would be decided by the product that you're in. So if you're, for example, if you're a rooftop solar customer, but you know that annually I generate about 80% of my usage, then your other 20% could come from a 100% green product. Or you go with the basic and be like, I did my part. I'm paying out an arm and a leg for these panels. I want to save every dime that I can. I'm going on the basic side of it. Those are perfectly two rational, logical positions to take. I make no judgment. Okay, thank you.
I know you make no judgment, but I'm enough of a socialist so they can hear me.
It's the people online.
Yeah. I'm enough of a socialist to agree with the aggregate approach, but I'm also not going to put a penny into DeSantis' pocket. I'd rather pay a little more for my electricity than to have be part of $9 million going into his back pocket.
And just to respond, I don't disagree. I understand. I feel like I just have an obligation that if that's, I'm going to sound like a downer, or I'm going to just, I don't know, I'm going to sound like I don't know what I'm going to sound like saying this. But the problem with the stance is that if you go to Rhode Island, the last resort service, you're still putting money in NextEra's pocket, because they're also the supplier to last resort service. And so, whether you are in, so Rhode Island, like NextEra Energy Services, the same company that is supplying the aggregation program, is one of the companies that supplies last resort service to. It's not actually Rhode Island Energy. They're not actually generating electricity and doing, they are buying the electricity from a supplier. Though one of those suppliers is NextEra, the same company that we are working with. And this is the moment of like, you're damned if you do, and you're damned if you don't. The company that we're talking about, they are going to receive compensation from your electricity usage one way or the other. And I'm not saying that's a reason to stay in the program. I just can't I can't be here and not be intellectually honest about that. And that if you wanted to not do that, you would need to go out and find an alternative supplier and vet them for it. And so if the goal is to not put a single dime into DeSantis's pocket because of buying electricity from this company that's owned by the ones that are giving the money, then I need you to go out and find another supplier altogether. In which case, Godspeed, I support you in doing it.
I wish we provided that.
Yeah, it's all off the grid.
Don't tempt me. Don't tempt. But I mean, that's honestly, and just to, I mean, to.
There are enough young people at this stage of the game of renewable energy that would be right behind you.
Yes. And that's the piece where we're at, is like, the supplier that you want doesn't exist yet. And you're right. They need to exist and they need to come about. But I'm just saying, like, I just need to be honest about it, is like, that supplier isn't here yet. And I don't know if I want to get into that business, but I hear exactly what you're saying. Thank you.
All right. Jamie, we have another question on this table here.
Just to clarify that this is a fixed rate contract and not a variable rate contract?
That is correct. It is fixed for these 6 months.
And one more thing. Before I came in today to the meeting, I did go onto the Rhode Island PUC website, and they did have the price of the 9.5 for last resort service for Rhode Island Energy. And then when I was here, I just went back to the website and was just now reduced to 10.341. So they reduced it again.
Wait, what? 10.34?
10?
Hold on, I got to get my supercomputer.
No, they decreased it. Oh, no, I'm sorry. They were 10.675 before I left my house to come to the meeting. When I came in here, I just looked at it again, and it was reduced to 10.341.
All right, because if that, I'm going to go verify that. No offense.
That's on the Rhode Island PUC website. Rhode Island PUC, go ahead.
Because if that's the case, I am now going to spend the rest of my night updating all of the websites because I got wrong information on it. But I'm really going to double check here, okay?
I hope it's the right.
Hey, folks. Folks, is there anyone else here who has questions? I want to thank Jamie Rhodes and for coming and give him a round of applause. He's a wealth of information. Anyone who has a question about the program and wants to contact me, you're welcome to. I work in town hall. I have business cards here if anybody wants to take one. And it looks like we're adjourning. Good night.